Welcome back to the ADHD workshop. This is session 2 of 5. Before we start on the topic for this session, let's review what we looked at last time. So last time we looked at what is ADHD, the core symptoms of ADHD, getting a diagnosis for ADHD, self-esteem, organisations and support networks. This session we're going to focus on sleep. The symptoms of ADHD can create issues for a young person's sleep pattern, and it can be really tricky to manage this. During this session, we hope to highlight some of the issues families may come across and ways to potentially support a good sleep routine. You can ask any questions you may have on the topic at the Q&A session.
Difficulties with sleep are common in children with a diagnosis of ADHD, and not having enough sleep can cause issues for the young person and their family. We all know that being sleep deprived can have an impact on our mood. As adults, we can usually tell when we have not had enough sleep, and it can have a negative impact on our entire day. For young people, being sleep deprived can have a negative impact on their ability to concentrate, and therefore it can make the school day very difficult. We know that the symptoms of ADHD can already make school a challenging place for young people, so a good night's sleep is important. Tackling sleep difficulties can be challenging for the young person, but also their family who are trying to support them to change their routine. There are many factors that might have an impact on sleep. Illness can have an impact on a young person's sleep. Environmental issues such as light, noise, temperature, smells, and sensory. Sometimes environmental issues can be addressed. Things such as temperature in the room. If the room is too warm, there could be the possibility to use an electric fan. You could also try rearranging the young person's room if, for example, their bed is near the window, which could be causing noise. Anxiety, friendship problems, school worries, bullying, and family worries can all have an impact on sleep. Later on in the session, we will discuss how we can support a young person with their sleep if they tend to worry about things when they are trying to sleep. Neurodevelopmental disorders such as ADHD, nightmares or night terrors. We will discuss these in more details later on in the session. Having no routine. We know that routine is so important when trying to get young people to sleep. There are many different things you can do to promote a good routine. A good place to start is setting a bedtime and sticking to this 7 days a week. It is important that even on weekends and school holidays, a child has a routine so they know what to expect when bedtime is approaching. It can be difficult to begin a new routine with a young person, especially if they do not feel tired, but later in the session we will discuss ways to promote a good sleep routine. A child being hungry or thirsty can also have an impact on sleep. If your child is frequently saying they are hungry or thirsty, you could add an evening snack or a drink into their evening routine. So what is sleep hygiene? Sleep hygiene refers to habits that help you get a good night's sleep. I will now go through some of these. Make sure the room is quiet and dark. Make sure your child's bedroom is at a comfortable temperature. We know that high temperatures can disrupt sleep, so as mentioned earlier, a fan could be useful, although this can be noisy, so it may not work for every child. Noise should be kept to a minimum. Think about the layout of your home. Is there a TV on near your child's bedroom, or maybe music playing? Avoid stimulating activities in the hour before bedtime. We suggest electronics are put away at least an hour before bedtime, as devices such as phones, TVs, tablets can stimulate a child. Activities such as reading or mindfulness can be a good activity before bed. Keeping a regular bedtime for your child, as we mentioned in the last slide, is really important. Make sure your child does not go to bed hungry or thirsty. Try to avoid drinks which contain caffeine. Help your child to fall asleep alone in their bed without you being there. We understand this can be really difficult, and this will need to be done gradually. Routine will be key to getting your child used to sleeping on their own. This is an example of a good sleep routine. I will give you some time to read through this. We know that every child will have a different sleep routine to meet their individual needs. You could take some of the steps from the example and add it into your child's current sleep routine. This could be something you and your child can do together. Changing a child's routine can be a shock to them, so doing this gradually can help. Adding or taking away things from their routine may be difficult at first, but it is important to stick to the new routine in order to allow your child to get used to it. Having siblings in the house can sometimes cause problems when trying to manage bedtimes. It could be useful to sit down with your child and explain why their siblings may have a different bedtime to them. Many children experience nightmares and night terrors, but most grow out of them. Although nightmares and night terrors may seem similar, they are actually very different. Nightmares usually occur later in the night and can cause feelings such as terror, fear, distress, or anxiety. Your child may wake up and be able to remember the dream and describe this to you. Nightmares in children can be caused by a frightening experience, such as watching a scary film, or by something that's worrying them. So what should you do if your child has experienced nightmares? Talk to your child to find out whether anything is worrying them, which could be triggering the nightmares. Ensure your child has a relaxing bedtime routine, and try not to reinforce the nightmare. Don't go looking for monsters under the bed. So night terrors, they appear to be common in young children, usually aged between 3 and 8 years old. A child having a night terror may scream and thrash around and may not recognize you if you try to comfort them. Your child's eyes may be open, but they will not be fully awake during these episodes and will not usually have any memory of this the next morning. Night terrors usually occur in the early part of the night and can continue for several minutes and can occur more than once during the night. So what should you do if your child experiences night terrors? It is important to stay calm and wait until the episode that your child has experienced is over. Avoid attempting to interact with them unless they are not safe. You should not attempt to wake up your child when they are having these episodes, as they may not recognize you and this could cause more distress. Although your child may not remember the episode in the morning, it would still be beneficial to talk to your child to find out if anything is worrying them. And again, it is important to ensure your child has a relaxing bedtime routine. You may have heard of melatonin before. So what is it? Melatonin is a naturally occurring hormone in the brain which helps to control your sleep pattern. Melatonin can also be prescribed to support a child to get to sleep. The melatonin that naturally occurs is what makes us feel sleepy in the evenings. It should be released naturally to synchronize a good sleep pattern. Melatonin secretion should increase after the onset of darkness. It should peak in the middle of the night and then tail off towards the end of the night. A poor bedtime routine can reduce the amount of melatonin released. For example, the use of devices can stimulate the brain and affect the natural release of melatonin, which is why we suggest not using any devices at least an hour before bedtime. A good way of recording your child's sleep pattern is to use a sleep diary. We have included a link to a useful website which has printable sleep diaries. Although if you search on the internet, you will be able to find many different ones. You could also get creative and create your own. A sleep diary is a good tool to record what goes well and what doesn't go so well. This could be useful when you're attempting to try a new strategy. A sleep diary helps you to break down the different parts of your child's sleep pattern. For example, what time did the bedtime routine start? And what time did they exactly fall asleep? It was discussed previously that changing a bedtime routine can be challenging and can affect the whole household. When trying to change your child's bedtime routine, the nights may begin to feel like they're merging into one. A sleep diary allows you to look at the night time and split it into segments. This could be useful to spot patterns of behaviour, for example, times they wake up during the night. You could also use a sleep diary as an activity for you and your child to fill in together if you think this would be helpful. A sleep diary can be a useful way of discussing your child's sleep pattern with professionals. The take-home message from today's session is: ensure a good nighttime routine, avoiding heavy meals and caffeine. Avoid the use of screens at least an hour before bed. You could use this hour to introduce new activities such as reading or mindfulness. Ensure a relaxed sleeping environment. Remember to consider things such as noise, temperature, and the layout of the bedroom. Try using sleep diaries to monitor your child's sleep patterns. Questions to think about following this session. Does your child have difficulty sleeping? If so, what are they? Could you improve your child's bedtime routine? If so, what will you introduce? If you have any thoughts or questions about the session, please bring them to the Q&A session. If you have any questions or comments on anything that's been discussed today, please bring them to the next Q&A session. And don't forget, you can find the dates and times of this on your invitation letter.
Thank you very much for listening to our session on sleep. The topic for session 3 is managing your child's behaviour at home.